Maya's feet felt like they were on fire. She'd been running around Murphy's diner for 14 straight hours, and her cheap sneakers were falling apart at the seams. The clock on the wall showed 2:15 a.m., and she was finally done with her double shift. Another lovely day in paradise, she muttered to herself, untying her grease-stained apron. The diner smelled like burned coffee and old French fries, a smell that seemed to follow her everywhere these days. She walked to the back office where Jerry, the night manager, was counting the till. He looked up at her with tired eyes. "Good work tonight, kid. Here's your cut of the tips." He handed her a crumpled envelope. Maya opened it and counted quickly, $23.47. Her heart sank a little more. With her regular wage, she'd made maybe $60 for the whole day. Rent was due in 3 days and she needed $450. "Thanks, Jerry," she said, forcing a smile. No point in complaining. Jerry was struggling just as much as she was. She grabbed her worn jacket from the hook and stepped out into the cold night air. The October wind cut right through her thin uniform, making her shiver. She pulled out her phone to check the bus schedule, then remembered she'd used her last bus tokens yesterday. Walking it is, she said to herself. The 20-minute walk home would save her $3, and right now, every dollar mattered. Maya had been working at Murphy's for 8 months now. Before that, she'd had a better job at a fancy restaurant downtown, but they'd closed suddenly when the owner ran off with all the money. She'd been job hunting ever since, but places kept telling her she needed more experience or a college degree. College. She used to dream about that. When she was 18, she'd planned to study business and maybe open her own restaurant someday. But life had other plans. Her mom got sick, medical bills piled up, and college became impossible. Now at 25, it felt like those dreams belonged to someone else. She started walking down the main street, her breath forming little clouds in the cold air. The streetlights cast long shadows, and most of the shops were closed and dark. A few late-night places were still open. A gas station, a 24-hour laundromat, and a bar that looked pretty rough. Maya usually took the main road home, but tonight she decided to cut through the alley behind the diner. It would save her 5 minutes, and she was exhausted. Her whole body ached, and she just wanted to get to her tiny studio apartment and collapse. The alley was darker than the street, lit only by a single flickering light halfway down. Maya walked quickly, her footsteps echoing off the brick walls. She was almost halfway through when she saw something that made her stop. There was a person slumped against the wall next to a dumpster. At first glance, she thought it might be one of the homeless people who sometimes slept in the area. But as she got closer, something seemed off. The person was wearing what looked like an expensive suit. Even in the dim light, Maya could see the fabric looked nothing like the clothes homeless people usually wore. The man, she could see it was a man now, had his head tilted back against the brick wall and he wasn't moving. Maya's first instinct was to keep walking. She'd been taught since she was little to mind her own business, especially late at night in dark alleys. Her mom always said, "Don't get involved in other people's problems, sweetheart. You've got enough of your own." But something made her pause. What if he was hurt? What if he needed help? She took a few steps closer and could smell alcohol. Strong alcohol. The man was breathing, but he was completely unconscious. His expensive-looking suit was wrinkled and dirty, and there was a wallet lying on the ground next to him. Maya looked around the empty alley. No one else was around. She pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. The man looked to be in his early 30s with dark hair and a face that would probably be handsome when he wasn't passed out drunk. His suit really was expensive. She'd worked at enough fancy places to recognize quality when she saw it. She should call 911. That was the right thing to do. But Maya hesitated. She'd called 911 before for situations like this, and usually the person just got arrested for public intoxication. They'd spend a night in jail, pay a fine they probably couldn't afford, and end up in more trouble than before. But this guy didn't look like he belonged in this alley. His watch looked real, not fake. His shoes were leather and probably cost more than Maya made in a month. This wasn't someone who usually found himself passed out behind diners. What if someone robbed him? The wallet was right there, and in this neighborhood it wouldn't last long. Maya had seen people get mugged for a lot less. She knelt down and checked his pulse. It was strong and steady. She gently shook his shoulder. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked softly. No response. She tried again, a little louder. "Sir, can you hear me?" Still nothing. He was completely out cold. Maya stood up and looked around again. The alley was still empty, but she could hear music and voices coming from the rough bar down the street. Soon people would start stumbling out of there, and they might not be as concerned about this man's safety as she was. She made a decision that surprised even her. Maya bent down and carefully picked up the wallet, making sure not to open it or look inside. She tucked it securely into the man's jacket pocket where it would be safer. Then she called 911. 911, what's your emergency? Hi, I found someone unconscious in an alley. He's breathing fine, but he won't wake up. I think he's been drinking. The dispatcher asked for the location and said they'd send someone right away. Maya gave them the address and hung up. She looked down at the unconscious man and felt a strange mix of worry and responsibility. 20 minutes later, the paramedics arrived. They checked the man over and confirmed what Maya had suspected. He was just very drunk and would sleep it off. Is he going to be okay? Maya asked. Yeah, he'll be fine, one of the paramedics said. Happens more often than you'd think. We can take him to the hospital if you want, but honestly, he just needs to sleep it off somewhere safe. What about the police? We could call them, but for what? Being drunk isn't a crime unless he's causing trouble, and he's not bothering anyone here. The paramedics packed up their equipment and left, and Maya was alone with the stranger again. She knew she should walk away now. She'd done her good deed for the day. The man was alive and safe, and that was enough. But as she started to leave, Maya heard voices getting closer. Loud, rough voices that didn't sound friendly. She looked back at the unconscious man, still helpless and vulnerable. Maya had always been too soft-hearted for her own good. Her mom used to say it would get her in trouble someday. Tonight might be that day, but she couldn't bring herself to leave him there. She pulled out her phone and called for a taxi, knowing it would cost her $20 she couldn't afford. When the cab arrived, she somehow managed to help the driver get the unconscious stranger into the back seat. Where to? The driver asked. Maya gave him her address, knowing she was probably making the biggest mistake of her life. Maya barely slept that night. Every time she started to drift off, she'd remember there was a complete stranger in her studio apartment, and her eyes would snap open again. She'd managed to get him onto her small couch with the taxi driver's help. The driver had given her strange looks but didn't ask questions when she paid him the $20. Now the man was lying there still in his expensive suit, breathing steadily but showing no signs of waking up. Maya sat on her bed, which was really just a mattress on the floor in the corner, and stared at him. What had she been thinking? She didn't know anything about this person. He could be dangerous. He could be a criminal. He could wake up angry and blame her for bringing him here. Her tiny apartment suddenly felt even smaller with another person in it. The whole place was maybe 300 square feet, with a corner that served as a kitchen, a bathroom so small you could barely turn around in it, and this single room that was her bedroom, living room and dining room all in. The man's expensive clothes looked completely out of place against her second-hand furniture and the water stain on the ceiling that her landlord kept promising to fix. Around 5 a.m., Maya finally dozed off in her chair, exhausted from worry and the long day she'd had. She dreamed about work, about bills, about the stranger on her couch, all mixed together in the weird way dreams work. She woke up to the sound of someone moving around. For a second, she forgot where she was and what had happened. Then reality came crashing back. The stranger was awake. Maya's heart started pounding as she sat up quickly. The man was standing in her tiny kitchen area, and he appeared to be making coffee. Her coffee. The good coffee beans she'd been saving for a special occasion, because they cost $12 and she couldn't afford to buy them often. He turned around when he heard her move, and Maya got her first good look at him in proper light. He was younger than she'd thought, probably around 30 or 32. His dark hair was messy from sleep, but his eyes were clear and alert. Green eyes that seemed to take in everything around them. "I'm sorry," he said immediately, his voice rough from sleep but educated sounding. "I don't remember much from last night, but I woke up here and—" He gestured helplessly around her small apartment. "I hope you don't mind that I made coffee. I found these beans and thought you might should want some when you woke up." Maya stood up slowly, suddenly very aware that she was still wearing her uniform from the diner and probably looked terrible. Her hair was messy, her clothes were wrinkled, and she felt completely unprepared for this conversation. "It's okay," she said, though she wasn't sure it was. "How are you feeling?" Like I got hit by a truck, he admitted, running a hand through his hair. But better than I probably deserve to feel. He poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs and held one out to her. I'm guessing I have you to thank for not waking up in jail or worse. Maya took the coffee gratefully. She needed the caffeine to deal with this situation. What do you remember? The man sat down at her small table, which had 2 chairs that didn't match each other or the table. Everything in Maya's apartment was secondhand or found, and she felt embarrassed having this well-dressed stranger see how she lived. Not much, he said honestly. I remember being very angry about something. I remember drinking way too much. And I have a vague memory of someone helping me into a taxi. He looked at her carefully. That was you, wasn't it? Yeah, Maya said, sitting down across from him. The table was so small their knees almost touched. I found you in the alley behind the diner where I work. You were unconscious. And instead of calling the police or just walking away, you brought me to your home. He looked around the small apartment again, but not in a judging way, more like he was trying to understand something. Why? Maya shrugged, feeling uncomfortable under his intense gaze. You seemed like you needed help. And that alley isn't safe at night. I couldn't just leave you there. Most people would have. I'm not most people, I guess. They sat in silence for a moment, drinking coffee. Maya noticed that the man had excellent manners despite having been drunk the night before. He held his mug properly and seemed genuinely grateful rather than entitled. I should call someone to come get me, he said finally. And I need to pay you back for whatever this cost you. The taxi, anything else? You don't have to. Yes, I do, he said firmly. You spent your own money to help a stranger. That's not nothing. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet, which Maya recognized as the one she'd found on the ground. I put that back in your pocket, she said quickly. I didn't look inside or take anything. The man stopped and stared at her. You found my wallet? It was on the ground next to you. I was worried someone would steal it, so I put it back in your jacket. You could have taken the money. I wouldn't have known. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. I don't steal. No, he said quietly. I can see that you don't. He opened the wallet and pulled out several bills. Please take this. For the taxi, for the coffee, for giving up your bed. I didn't give up my bed, Maya said. I don't have a bed. Just that mattress over there. You slept on the couch. The man looked over at the mattress on the floor, then at the overdue bills scattered on her counter, then at the empty refrigerator visible through the open door. Maya saw him taking it all in and wished the floor would swallow her up. You're struggling, he said. It wasn't a question. Maya lifted her chin defensively. I'm doing fine, are you? He gestured toward the pile of bills. Because it looks like you're working yourself into the ground and barely getting by. And yet you still spent money you couldn't afford to help someone you didn't know. Look, I don't need your pity, Maya said, standing up. And I don't need your money. I helped you because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted a reward. Sit down, the man said gently. Please, I'm not trying to insult you. Maya hesitated, then sat back down. What's your name? He asked. Maya. Maya, I'm Alex. He extended his hand across the small table and she shook it. His grip was firm and warm. And I'm not offering you money out of pity. I'm offering it because you did something extraordinary last night, and extraordinary actions deserve to be recognized. It wasn't extraordinary, Maya protested. Anyone would have done the same thing. Alex smiled, and it completely changed his face. No, Maya, they wouldn't have. Trust me on that. He pulled out his phone and glanced at the screen. I have about 15 missed calls and 30 text messages. People are looking for me. Are you in some kind of trouble? You could say that. Alex's expression grew serious. I made some very poor decisions yesterday, and drinking myself unconscious was just the latest one. He looked at her directly. But waking up here, seeing what you did for me, it's given me some perspective I desperately needed. He stood up and walked to the small window that looked out over the alley where she'd found him. Can I ask you something, Maya? Sure. Do you like working at that diner? Maya almost laughed. Does anyone like working at Murphy's? It's a job. It pays the bills. Barely. What would you rather be doing? The question caught her off guard. When was the last time someone had asked her that? I used to want to go to college. Study business, maybe. Open my own restaurant someday. She shook her head. But that's not realistic anymore. Why not? Because I'm 25 and broke and I've got bills to pay. And no time to go to school and no money for tuition and no connections to help me get ahead. The words came out more bitter than she'd intended. Alex turned back to her. What if I told you that was about to change? I'd say you're still drunk. He laughed, a real laugh that made Maya smile despite herself. Fair enough, but Maya, I think last night happened for a reason. I think we met for a reason. Before Maya could ask what he meant, Alex's phone rang. He looked at the screen and his expression changed. I have to take this, he said. It's important. Maya nodded and started clearing the coffee mugs, trying not to listen but unable to help overhearing. David, I know you're worried, Alex said into the phone. His voice had changed completely. It was more authoritative now, more commanding. Yes, I'm fine. No, I don't need you to come get me. There was a pause. Because I'm handling something important right now, something that might change everything. Maya looked over at him, confused by the change in his demeanor. This didn't sound like the grateful stranger who had been sitting at her table a few minutes ago. This sounded like someone used to being in charge. Schedule a meeting for this afternoon, Alex continued. The conference room. I want everyone there, the whole board, the department heads, everyone. We're going to make some changes. Another pause. Big changes, David. The kind that are going to shake things up. He hung up and turned back to Maya, who was staring at him with growing confusion. Maya, Alex said, his voice gentle again but with an undertone of excitement. I think it's time I told you exactly who you helped last night. Maya stared at Alex, waiting for him to explain what he meant. The way he'd handled that phone call had completely changed her impression of him. One minute he was a grateful stranger drinking her coffee, and the next minute he sounded like he was running a company. Okay, she said slowly. Who are you? Alex sat back down at her small table and looked directly at her. My full name is Alexander Chen. I'm the CEO of Chen Industries. Maya blinked. Chen Industries? Like the construction company with the big signs all over the city? That's us, Alex said. We build office buildings, shopping centers, apartment complexes. We're one of the largest development companies in the state. Maya felt her mouth fall open. She'd seen those signs everywhere. Chen Industries was building that huge new shopping complex downtown, and the luxury apartment building on 5th Street, and probably half a dozen other projects she passed every day on her way to work. You're joking, she said. I'm not. Alex pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. There were dozens of missed calls and text messages from people with titles like VP Development and Chief Financial Officer and Board Chairman. Maya looked at the phone, then at Alex, then around her tiny, shabby apartment. A CEO was passed out drunk in the alley behind Murphy's Diner. Yes. And I brought him home to my studio apartment that costs $450 a month and has a water stain on the ceiling. Yes, Maya started laughing. Not happy laughter, but the kind of laughter that happens when something is so ridiculous, you don't know how else to react. This is insane. This doesn't happen to people like me. What do you mean, people like you? Poor people, Maya said bluntly. Working class people. People who live paycheck to paycheck and eat ramen noodles for dinner 3 nights a week. We don't rescue millionaire CEOs and bring them home for coffee. Apparently you do, Alex said gently. Maya shook her head. I don't understand. What were you doing in that alley? Why were you so drunk? Alex's expression grew dark. Because yesterday was the worst day of my professional life, and I handled it very badly. He was quiet for a moment, seeming to decide how much to tell her. Then he sighed and continued. I started Chen Industries 5 years ago with my business partner, David Kim. We built it from nothing into what it is today. David handled the financial side while I focused on development and construction. Alex's jaw tightened. Yesterday I found out that David has been stealing from the company for over a year. Stealing how much? Maya asked. $3.7 million. Maya felt dizzy. That was more money than she could even imagine. $3 million? He'd been moving money from our project accounts into fake companies he set up. Money that was supposed to go to contractors, to suppliers, to workers' salaries. He'd been covering it up by delaying payments and juggling the books. Alex ran his hands through his hair. I only found out because one of our biggest contractors threatened to sue us for non-payment. That's horrible. It gets worse. When I confronted David yesterday, he didn't deny it. He actually laughed and said I was too naive and trusting to run a real business. Then he told me he was leaving the company and taking half our clients with him. Alex's voice was bitter. Turns out he'd been bad-mouthing me to our investors for months, telling them I was incompetent and that he was the real brains behind our success. Maya felt angry on Alex's behalf, which surprised her. She barely knew this man, but the idea of someone betraying him like that made her furious. So what did you do? I fired him on the spot and told him I was calling the police. But the damage was already done. Word spreads fast in the construction business. By the end of the day, 3 of our biggest investors had pulled out. 2 major projects were on hold and rumors were flying that Chen Industries was going bankrupt. Are you going bankrupt? Alex shook his head. No, but it's going to be close. I'll have to sell some assets, lay off employees, and basically start over with a fraction of what I had before. He looked at her with those intense green eyes. So yes, I went to a bar and drank way too much. I felt sorry for myself and made terrible decisions, and I ended up passed out in an alley like some kind of failure. You're not a failure, Maya said firmly. How do you figure that? Because you didn't give up. You could have stayed drunk or run away or declared bankruptcy and walked away from the whole mess. But instead you're making phone calls and scheduling meetings and planning to fight back. She surprised herself with how passionate she sounded. That's not what failures do. Alex stared at her for a long moment. You really believe that? Of course I do. Look, I don't know anything about running a business, but I know about working hard and not giving up when things get tough. And I know about people who take advantage of others. Maya's voice got harder. My mom worked for a company for 15 years, and when she got sick, they fired her and denied her health insurance. I know what it's like when people with power decide to screw over people who trusted them. What happened to your mom? She died 2 years ago. The medical bills bankrupted us both, but at least I got to take care of her at the end. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. The point is, you're not the villain here. David is. Alex reached across the small table and touched her hand gently. I'm sorry about your mother. Thank you. Maya pulled her hand back, feeling self-conscious. But we're not talking about me. We're talking about you and your company. Actually, I think we should be talking about you. Alex leaned forward. Maya, in the past 12 hours, you've shown more genuine integrity than most of the people I work with show in a year. You helped a stranger who could have been dangerous. You spent money you couldn't afford. You didn't steal from me when you had the chance. And just now you defended me against someone you've never even met, just because it was the right thing to do. So that's incredibly rare. In my business, I'm surrounded by people who will smile to your face and steal from you behind your back. People who only care about money and power and getting ahead. Alex's voice grew excited. But you're different. You have something my world desperately needs. Maya felt uncomfortable with the way he was looking at her. I don't understand what you're getting at. I'm getting at the fact that I need to rebuild my company from the ground up. And I need people I can trust absolutely. People with real character. Alex stood up and started pacing around her tiny apartment, which meant taking about 4 steps in each direction. I've been thinking about this all morning, and I keep coming back to the same conclusion, which is, that meeting you last night wasn't an accident. It was exactly what I needed to happen. Maya stood up too, feeling overwhelmed. Alex, you're not making sense. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're honest and kind, and you don't back down from doing the right thing, even when it costs you. I know you're smart and you see people clearly, and I know you deserve better than working yourself to death for $60 a day. What are you saying? Alex stopped pacing and looked directly at her. I'm saying I want to offer you a job. Maya almost laughed again. A job doing what? I'm a waitress with a GED. I don't know anything about construction or development or whatever it is you do. You don't need to know about construction. I need someone who knows about people. Someone I can trust to help me figure out who else I can trust. Alex's eyes were bright with possibility. I need someone who can look at a person and see their real character, not just what they want me to see. That's not a real job. It is if I make it one. Alex pulled out his phone again. Maya, I'm about to rebuild Chen Industries with a completely different approach. Instead of just focusing on profit, I want to focus on doing business the right way, treating employees fairly, paying contractors on time, building things that actually help communities instead of just making money. Maya stared at him. That sounds nice, but what does it have to do with me? Everything, Alex said. Because I can't do it alone. And I can't do it surrounded by the same kind of people who let David steal from me for a year without noticing. I need someone with a different perspective. Someone who understands what it's like to struggle, Who knows the value of honest work? Maya's heart was racing. This was crazy. This was impossible. Alex, you can't just offer some random waitress a job at your company because she helped you out. That's not how the real world works. It's how my world is going to work from now on, Alex said firmly. Maya, I'm offering you a chance to change your life. To go back to school if you want. To learn about business, to be part of building something meaningful. Maya sat back down heavily. Her mind was spinning. This is insane. Maybe, but sometimes the best decisions seem insane at first. Alex sat down across from her again. I'm not asking you to decide right now, but I want you to think about it. Really think about it. What would I even do? Start as my executive assistant. Learn the business from the ground up. Help me interview new employees and figure out who we can trust. Eventually, if you want to, you could go back to school part-time and work towards something bigger. Maya looked around her tiny apartment, at the overdue bills, at the water-stained ceiling, at the mattress on the floor that served as her bed. Then she looked at Alex, this successful businessman who had somehow ended up in her life by complete accident. What's the salary? She asked quietly. Alex smiled. More than you're making now. A lot more. Maya closed her eyes. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. But when she opened her eyes, Alex was still there. Still waiting for her answer. Still looking at her like she was the solution to his problems instead of just another problem herself. I need time to think, she said finally. Of course you do. Take all the time you need. Alex stood up and pulled a business card from his wallet. My personal number is on here. Call me when you're ready to talk. Maya took the card with shaking hands. It was thick, expensive paper with elegant lettering. Alexander Chen, Chief Executive Officer, Chen Industries. Thank you, she said, though she wasn't sure what she was thanking him for. No, Maya, Alex said as he headed toward the door. Thank you for everything. After he left, Maya sat in her empty apartment staring at the business card and wondering if her life was about to change forever. Maya stared at Alex's business card for 3 days straight. She carried it with her to work, pulling it out during her breaks and wondering if she'd imagined the whole thing. A CEO wanting to hire her? It seemed like something that would happen in a movie, not real life. On Wednesday morning, Jerry called her into the back office at Murphy's Diner. Maya, I got some bad news, he said, looking uncomfortable. The owner's selling the place. New buyers want to tear it down and build condos. We're closing in 2 weeks. Maya felt her stomach drop. What about our jobs? Gone. I'm sorry, kid. I know you've been working hard here. Maya walked home in a daze. No job meant no income, which meant no rent money, which meant she'd be homeless by the end of the month. She sat in her tiny apartment and looked around at her few possessions. Everything she owned could probably fit in her car, if her car hadn't died 3 months ago. She pulled out Alex's card again. This time she dialed the number before she could change her mind. Alex Chen. Hi, it's Maya, the waitress who found you? Maya! Alex sounded genuinely happy to hear from her. I was hoping you'd call. Have you thought about my offer? Actually, I don't have much choice anymore. Murphy's is closing in 2 weeks, so if the job offer is still open, absolutely it is. Can you come in tomorrow morning? I'll show you around and we can talk about details. Maya looked down at her worn jeans and stained sneakers. I don't really have office clothes. Don't worry about that. We'll figure it out. Just come as you are. The next morning, Maya stood outside the Chen Industries building downtown feeling completely out of place. The building was all glass and steel, with a marble lobby and security guards in expensive suits. Everyone walking in and out looked like they belonged in a business magazine. Maya walked up to the reception desk where a perfectly dressed woman with perfect hair looked her up and down with obvious disapproval. Can I help you? The receptionist asked in a tone that suggested she doubted it. I'm here to see Alex Chen. Mr. Chen. I'm Maya Rodriguez. The receptionist checked her computer and her eyebrows rose slightly. He's expecting you. 32nd floor, elevator bank to your right. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. Maya caught her reflection in the polished doors and winced. She looked exactly like what she was, a broke waitress who had no business being in a building like this. Alex was waiting when the elevator doors opened. He looked completely different in his business environment, confident, authoritative, like he belonged here. For a moment, Maya wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. "Maya, you made it," Alex said with a genuine smile. "Come on, let me show you around." The office was huge, with floor-to-ceiling windows that showed the entire city. There were conference rooms with long tables, offices with expensive furniture, and everywhere she looked, people in suits having important-sounding conversations. "This is intimidating," Maya said quietly. "It won't be for long," Alex promised. "You'll get used to it." He led her to a smaller office next to his. "This would be yours. It needs some work, but you can set it up however you want." Maya looked around the empty office. It was bigger than her entire apartment. "Alex, I still don't understand what I'd actually do here." "Let me show you." Alex led her to the conference room, where several people were already seated around a large table. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Maya Rodriguez. She's going to be joining our team as my new executive assistant." Maya felt everyone's eyes on her and wanted to disappear. These people all looked successful and educated and like they knew exactly what they were doing. She felt like a fraud. "Maya will be helping me rebuild our company culture," Alex continued. "She'll be involved in hiring decisions, employee relations, and making sure we're operating with the integrity our clients deserve." A woman in an expensive suit raised her hand. "What are her qualifications?" Maya's cheeks burned. Here it comes, she thought. "Maya has something more valuable than qualifications," Alex said firmly. "She has character. She has the ability to see people as they really are, not as they pretend to be, and she has first-hand experience with what it's like to work hard for an honest living." An older man at the end of the table frowned. "Alex, with all due respect, we're trying to rebuild credibility after the David situation. Hiring someone without experience or education might send the wrong message." "The wrong message to who, Robert?" Alex's voice got cooler. "To the investors who didn't notice that David was stealing millions? To the employees who are worried about their jobs because the people with impressive qualifications failed to do theirs?" Maya could feel the tension in the room. She cleared her throat. "Maybe I should wait outside," she said quietly. "No," Alex said. "You should hear this, because this is exactly the kind of thinking we need to change." He turned back to the table. "For 5 years, we've hired people based on their resumes and their connections and their degrees from fancy schools. And where did that get us? We got David, who had an MBA from Princeton and a track record of success, and who nearly destroyed everything we built." Robert looked uncomfortable. "That's not fair, Alex. One bad hire doesn't mean—" "It wasn't one bad hire, Robert. It was a culture that valued the appearance of success over actual integrity. A culture where people were so busy impressing each other that nobody was paying attention to what was actually happening." Maya watched this exchange with growing anxiety. She was causing problems already, and she hadn't even officially started working here yet. "Look," she said, interrupting. "I appreciate the opportunity, Alex, but maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not qualified for this, and what makes someone qualified?" Alex asked, looking directly at her. "Is it a college degree?" Robert has 3 degrees, but he didn't notice that our chief financial officer was embezzling money for over a year. Robert's face turned red. Alex continued. "Is it experience? Lisa has 15 years of experience in corporate management, but she recommended David for promotion 6 months ago." A blonde woman across the table shifted uncomfortably. "Or is it the ability to make good judgments about people and situations? The ability to do the right thing even when it's difficult? The ability to work hard and stay honest no matter what?" Alex looked around the room. "Because if that's what qualifies someone, then Maya is the most qualified person in this building." Maya felt overwhelmed. Part of her was grateful for Alex's support, but part of her was terrified. These people already resented her, and she hadn't even done anything yet. "I need some air," she said, and walked quickly out of the conference room. She found herself in a bathroom down the hall, staring at her reflection and fighting back tears. What was she doing here? She didn't belong in this world. She didn't know how to dress like these people, or talk like these people, or think like these people. 5 minutes later, there was a knock on the bathroom door. "Maya? It's Lisa, can I come in?" Maya unlocked the door. The blonde woman from the conference room stepped inside. "I wanted to apologize," Lisa said. "We were rude in there, and that wasn't okay." "You were just being honest," Maya said. "I don't have qualifications. I don't have experience. I'm a waitress who got lucky. You know what?" Lisa leaned against the counter. "I've been working in corporate environments for 15 years, and I've never seen anyone defend someone the way Alex just defended you. That means something. It means he feels sorry for me." No, it doesn't. Lisa's voice was firm. Alex doesn't feel sorry for people. He's one of the most practical businessmen I know. If he hired you, it's because he sees something in you that he thinks will help this company. Maya wiped her eyes. I just don't want to let him down. Then don't. Look, this job is going to be hard. People are going to question you every day. They're going to watch for you to make mistakes. But that's not because you're unqualified. That's because you're different, and different scares people. Maya looked at Lisa in the mirror. Why are you being nice to me? 2 minutes ago you were questioning whether I should be here. Because 2 minutes ago I was thinking like the old Chen Industries, the company that valued credentials over character and ended up getting robbed blind. Lisa smiled slightly. Maybe it's time to try something different. When Maya returned to the conference room, the meeting was ending. Alex caught her eye and walked over. You okay? I think so. Lisa helped. Alex nodded. Lisa's good people. She just needed a reminder of what matters. He handed Maya a folder. Employment paperwork. Take it home, look it over, and if you're still interested, we'll start on Monday. Maya took the folder with shaking hands. Inside was a salary figure that was more than double what she'd been making at the diner. Alex, what if I'm terrible at this? Then you'll learn. That's what everyone else did when they started. Alex's expression was serious. Maya, I'm not doing this as a favor to you. I'm doing this because I believe you can help save my company. But only if you believe it too. Maya looked around the conference room at the expensive furniture and the view of the city, at the people in their business suits having their important conversations. It was terrifying and overwhelming and completely outside anything she'd ever imagined for herself. But it was also an opportunity. A real chance to change her life. Okay, she said quietly. I'll try. That's all anyone can do, Alex said. Welcome to Chen Industries, Maya. As Maya walked back to the elevator, folder clutched in her hands, she caught her reflection in the glass walls. She still looked like a waitress in borrowed clothes. But for the first time in years, she also looked like someone with a future. The real work was about to begin. 1 year later, Maya stood in front of the bathroom mirror in her new apartment, adjusting the jacket of her navy blue business suit. The reflection looking back at her was almost unrecognizable from the exhausted waitress who had found a drunk stranger in an alley 12 months ago. Her apartment was still modest, but it was clean and bright with actual furniture instead of second-hand pieces. The water stains were gone, replaced by white walls and plants that she actually had time to take care of. Most importantly, there was no pile of overdue bills on her counter. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Alex. Ready for the big presentation? She typed back, as ready as I'll ever be. Today was the day Chen Industries would present their new community development project to the city council. It was Maya's project, her idea, her research, her presentation. 6 months ago, she never would have imagined standing in front of government officials and business leaders, but here she was. The past year had been the hardest and most rewarding of Maya's life. Those first few months at Chen Industries had been brutal. Every day felt like she was drowning in information she didn't understand, surrounded by people who were waiting for her to fail. But Alex had been patient. He'd spent hours teaching her about construction, about finance, about how businesses actually worked. More importantly, he'd listened to her ideas and treated them seriously, even when they came from someone who 6 months earlier had been serving coffee and scrambled eggs. Maya's breakthrough had come during a staff meeting about employee morale. The company was struggling to rebuild after David's betrayal, and several good employees had quit to work for competitors. What if we asked them what they actually want instead of guessing? Maya had suggested. Robert, the older executive who had questioned her hiring, had rolled his eyes. We can't just give employees whatever they ask for, Maya. This is a business, not a charity. I'm not talking about giving them whatever they want, Maya had replied, her confidence growing. I'm talking about finding out what would make them want to stay here instead of going somewhere else. Alex had supported the idea, and Maya had spent 2 weeks interviewing every employee in the company. What she found surprised everyone, including herself. The employees weren't leaving for more money. They were leaving because they felt like the company didn't care about them as people. They wanted flexible schedules for parents with young children. They wanted professional development opportunities. They wanted to feel like their work mattered beyond just making profit. Maya had presented her findings to the executive team with specific, practical solutions. A child care assistance program, paid time for employees to take continuing education classes, volunteer days where teams could work on community projects together. This will cost money, Robert had pointed out. Less money than constantly hiring and training new people, Maya had responded, and a lot less money than losing good employees to competitors. 6 months later, Chen Industries had the lowest employee turnover rate in the industry. Word had spread that they were a good company to work for, and they were attracting top talent from their competitors. But Maya's biggest success had come 3 months ago, when she'd proposed the Riverside Community Center project. She'd been driving through one of the city's poorest neighborhoods and noticed all the empty lots and abandoned buildings. Instead of seeing problems, she'd seen opportunities. What if we built something that actually helped the community instead of just making money off it? She'd asked Alex, "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we built a community center with job training programs, after-school care for kids, maybe some small business office space that people could rent cheaply?" Maya had pulled up maps and census data on her computer. This neighborhood has been ignored for years. People here need opportunity, not another expensive development they can't afford. Alex had been intrigued. How would we make money? Government grants for community development. Tax incentives for building in low-income areas. Maybe some of the office space could rent at market rate to subsidize the community programs. Maya had stayed up all night working on the proposal, plus it's good publicity. Shows that Chen Industries cares about more than just profit. The project had been approved, and now Maya was about to present the final plans to the city council. If they voted yes today, construction would begin in 2 months. Maya arrived at Chen Industries to find Alex waiting by her office. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Nervous," Maya admitted. "What if they ask questions I can't answer?" "Then you say you don't know and that you'll find out." "Maya, you know this project better than anyone. You've spent months researching every detail." Maya nodded, gathering her presentation materials. "Alex, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever regret it?" "Hiring me, I mean. Taking a chance on someone with no experience?" Alex smiled. "Maya, hiring you was the best business decision I've ever made. Do you know what our company reputation was like a year ago? Pretty bad. Terrible. We were known as the company that got robbed by its own CFO. Clients didn't trust us. Employees didn't respect us. We were falling apart." Alex leaned against her desk. "But in the past year, we've become known as the company that treats people right. The company that gives back to the community. The company that actually cares about doing good work, not just making money. That wasn't just me. It was your ideas, your perspective, your insistence that we should care about more than profit." Alex's expression grew serious. "Maya, that night in the alley, you didn't just save my life. You saved my company. You reminded me what really matters." 20 minutes later, Maya stood at the podium in the city council chambers, looking out at a room full of officials, community leaders, and reporters. A year ago, she would have been terrified. Today, she felt nervous but ready. "Good morning," she began. "My name is Maya Rodriguez, Vice President of Community Development for Chen Industries." The title still felt strange to say. Vice President. Alex had promoted her 3 months ago, saying that her work on the community center project had earned it. Maya clicked to her first slide, showing a map of the Riverside neighborhood. "Today I'm here to present a project that we believe can transform not just empty lots, but entire lives." For the next 30 minutes, Maya presented her research, her plans, and her vision for what the Riverside Community Center could become. She talked about job training programs for adults, after-school tutoring for kids, small business development workshops, and community events that would bring neighbors together. When she finished, the questions came fast. "What's your background in community development, Ms. Rodriguez?" asked one council member. "I don't have a traditional background," Maya answered honestly. "But I grew up in neighborhoods like Riverside. I know what it's like to work multiple jobs and still struggle to pay rent. I know what it's like to want opportunities that just aren't available." She paused. "Sometimes the best qualification for solving a problem is having lived it yourself. How do we know this won't just be another failed government project?" asked another council member. "Because we're not asking the government to run it," Maya replied. "Chen Industries is committing to manage the community center for the first 5 years, with oversight from local community leaders. We're not just building something and walking away. We're investing in the long-term success of this neighborhood." The questions continued for another 20 minutes, but Maya felt confident in her answers. She'd spent months preparing for this moment. When the council voted unanimously to approve the project, Maya felt tears of pride in her eyes. Outside the building, Alex was waiting with Lisa and several other employees who had come to support her. "You did it," Alex said, giving her a hug. "I'm so proud of you." "We did it," Maya corrected. "This was a team effort," Lisa smiled. "Maya, do you remember that first day when you were so scared you hid in the bathroom?" Maya laughed. "I remember thinking I didn't belong here. And now you're presenting to the city council and getting standing ovations. Sometimes I still can't believe it's real." That evening, Maya stood on the balcony of her apartment looking out over the city. In the distance, she could see the construction cranes marking the locations of Chen Industries' various projects. Soon, one of those cranes would be building her community center. Her phone rang. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who had become like a grandmother to Maya. "I saw you on the news," Mrs. Chen said excitedly. "That presentation was wonderful. Your mother would have been so proud." Maya smiled, thinking about her mom. "I think she would have been surprised. She always said I was too soft-hearted for business. Being soft-hearted isn't a weakness, dear. It's what makes you care enough to do good work." After hanging up, Maya thought about the past year. She'd gone from serving coffee at Murphy's Diner to presenting million-dollar projects to city officials. She'd gone from living paycheck to having a savings account and a retirement plan. She'd gone from feeling powerless to having the ability to actually help people. But the biggest change wasn't in her bank account or her job title. The biggest change was in how she saw herself. She no longer felt like she didn't belong or that she wasn't good enough. She'd learned that sometimes the most important qualifications couldn't be taught in school. Things like integrity, empathy, and the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Dinner tomorrow to celebrate?" "My treat," she typed back. "Only if we go somewhere with good coffee." Alex responded, "I know just the place. A little diner that serves great coffee and has the best staff in the city." Maya laughed, remembering Murphy's Diner and how different her life had been just 12 months ago. Sometimes she missed the simplicity of that old life, but she wouldn't trade where she was now for anything. The broke waitress who had found a drunk CEO in an alley had become a successful businesswoman who was helping to transform communities. But more than that, she had become someone who proved that sometimes the most unlikely encounters can change everything. As Maya headed inside to plan her next project, she reflected on something Alex had told her months ago. Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about who you choose to be when no one is watching, and who you lift up along the way. 1 year later, Maya Rodriguez was living proof that when you choose kindness, even in the darkest alleys, it can light up your entire future.